Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to the full guide that you'll need to start your journey with Syndra. We got the release of patch 5.0 and that does now mean the release of Syndra. This champion is a mid lane mage, kind of works similarly to champions like Orianna, Ari, some of these control mages. Ziggs as well is another very good example of how this champion can be very, very effective. She'll most likely be played in the mid lane most of the time, but you can play her down in the dual lane. In this video, I'll go through all the abilities, I'll go through leveling order, combos, builds, everything you need to know about this champion. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below. Let me know what you think of Syndra's release to Wild Rift. Right, let's get things started here with the abilities. You can see the runes there, little sneak glimpse there of the abilities. But first up is her passive, which is Transcendent. So Transcendent, it might seem like a complicated passive, but it's actually pretty simple. So basically, every single time that you deal ability damage to an enemy champion, you grant one splinter of Wrath, and that also restores mana. And then Syndra also gains 2 splinters of Wrath every single time she levels up an ability. So you can see that I haven't used any of my ability. I've leveled up all my abilities, haven't used any abilities. You can see my Transcendent stacks there at the bottom. That will show you how many stacks you have in total, next to things like Luna's Echo, Crown of Shattered Queen. So when you keep an eye on that at the bottom, you'll be able to see how many stacks you have. Now, Transcendence and collecting these splinters of Wrath allow you to upgrade your abilities, very similar to Kha'Zix. Now you'll be able to get to choose which abilities you upgrade depending on what order you want to do it in. It empowers the basic ability after collecting 40, 60, and 80, and then empowers your Unleash power, which is your ultimate, at 100 stacks, and then gives you 15% ability power when collecting 120 stacks, which is the maximum stacks that you can get on Syndra. So every single time that you cast ability and you hit an enemy champion, you can see there I'm getting 1 stack every single time. Then when we get up to 40 stacks, let me quickly put this on 0 CD so I can just keep using abilities time and time again, keep spamming them over and over again. When you got to 40 stacks there, you can see that you can now choose which ability you want to evolve first, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in the leveling section to tell you what leveling order you should put these evolves into. But that's a pretty simple way of explaining the passive. Nothing else that needs to happen. Basically, just use your abilities to poke down enemy champions, deal damage to them, level up your abilities. Hey, you get some extra passives to your abilities, which we're going to go through now. Syndra's first ability, Dark Sphere. So you conquer a dark sphere, dealing magic damage to enemies, and the sphere remains for 6 seconds, can be manipulated by Syndra's other abilities, like her second ability and also her third ability. The Transcendent, so the upgraded version of Syndra's first ability, is that you can store an extra charge of Dark Spheres. So you can store every 5 seconds up to a maximum of 2 stacks. This ability you can also cast this ability whilst moving. Really strong ability that you want to use all the time during the laning phase. You can use this to either farm minions, or because of its incredible range, you can actually use this to poke down enemy champions. That's why I feel like runes like First Strike or even Electrocute are going to be very powerful for Syndra. So you can see here when I use my ability, the Dark Sphere goes on the ground. You can see that it goes on the ground for just a little bit of time. So you can use this wherever you want on the map. There's no direction or there's no limit in terms of how many you can actually put on the ground as well, which is also very important. You can see I just keep putting more and more over time and time again, which is very important to note. And then the upgraded version, as it mentions, you can then stack 2. So you can see here, I've just upgraded my first ability. We now get 2 stacks of our first ability. Now, this is really kind of where Syndra comes online. When you get 2 stacks of your first ability, you can really use this towards your combos as well a little bit later on, because you'll be able to use 2 of these in quick succession. You can see there, you can just use 2 of them straight away. I'll take off the 0-second cooldown so you can see for yourself. 1 there, and then 1 just a second later, and then it will go on cooldown for a little bit. But you can see the charges actually stack up very quickly. So you can use this ability constantly throughout the whole laning phase and pretty much the entire game to be able to poke down enemy champions and deal the most amount of damage as possible, because it the cooldown is going to be very short for this ability. Moving on to Syndra's second ability, Force of Will. So it grabs the nearest dark sphere and holds it towards a target location, dealing magic damage to enemies within the area and also slowing them by 35% for 1.5 seconds. Now, the important part is if there isn't a dark sphere nearby, so if you haven't used your first ability fairly recently, Syndra generates one and holds it to a target location. However, the damage from the sphere is reduced by 80%. So this is one thing that you need to note when using Syndra's second ability. You do not want to use this ability at the start of team fights. It is not worth it at all. You see the upgraded version there, the ability just deals additional true damage. So you can see here that I can use my second ability whenever I want to. Now this ability is a bit different than what it is on PC League of Legends, because on PC League of Legends you can pick up your dark spheres, you can pick up minions. You can't do that in Wild Rift. It's just a kind of point and click ability, I guess you can say, in a way. You can see here I can just basically grab a sphere out of my arse, basically, it seems like, and then hurl it at them. You see, it's just like that. We're just using this ability and we're just hurling it at them. Now you can see that when you have one dark sphere on the ground, it's going to use this dark sphere and it's going to keep jumping around over and over again. But when you don't have a dark sphere on the ground, that's when you're going to be losing 80% of your damage. It's a lot when you think about it. So what I want you to kind of get into your brain is, before you use your second ability, is use your first ability first. Use your first ability to poke, then use your second ability to pick it up and throw it back on that same enemy champion. You can do this in the laning phase as well. You can do this wherever you want. You can also put it behind you as well, but you do have to be careful about the range of the dark sphere, because this circle around you is basically the range that you have to go into. So you can put your dark sphere here, you can walk up and use it on the minions, and you can see that it grabs the sphere behind me and it throws it forward. That's going to be the way to do your full damage, but if you just use this ability with no spheres around, you're going to be losing out. So you can generate spheres with your second ability, but you're losing out on 80% of your damage if you do that. Moving on to Scatter of the Week. This ability is extremely powerful. So it projects a wave of force in a cone, knocking back enemies and dark spheres, dealing magic damage. The dark spheres that are knocked back can stun enemy champions and knock them along with the, is it 1.25 seconds, sorry. And then the upgraded version increases the angle of the wave of the forces cone by 50% and its radius by 720. Enemies can only take damage when being knocked back from this ability once per cast. So pretty simple. You can use your third ability to either knock back enemy champions, or you can use your third ability to knock back dark spheres. I'll show you both of them as an example. So say, for example, you're getting ganked, you have to be very cautious. Say a Lee Sin's jumping on you. All you have to do is use your third ability and you knock them away. You knock them quite a fair distance as well. However, you can also use this to use your first ability. Now, one thing I want you to see with your first ability when you're trying to combo it with your third ability, when you use your first ability, you see how there's like a little arrow pointing in the direction where your first ability is? That's going to be the direction that you're going to be able to knock the sphere with Scatter of the Week. So if I use my dark sphere here, and if you can see the direction, that's the direction you can see there that the sphere is going to go to. I use it over here, I use Scatter of the Week, it's going to go in that direction. So every single time that you're thinking of using Scatter of the Week with your dark sphere as a combo, always look at your dark spheres on the floor, because you can make a big mistake by using your Scatter of the Week here and you can miss enemy champion just like that. So you have to be very, very careful. So when you use it, you have to make sure that the arrow is pointing in the direction of the enemy champion. You use it and there you go, it stuns the enemy champions. Whereas if you just use this, it just knocks them back, makes them airborne for a little bit. This also works with multiple of your first abilities as well. You can do as many as possible and you can get multiple stuns off like that. So you can get huge AoE stuns if you're able to use your first ability, stack twice. You can then also generate another one with your second ability, and then use your third ability to knock all of them into the enemy team. That's a great way in which you can get a huge AoE stun with just one simple ability. However, you can focus on single target as well just by doing that. Then onto our ultimate, Unleashed Power. So manipulate 3 dark spheres by orbiting her plus manipulate the 3 dark spheres orbiting her plus up to 4 more nearby. Sorry, I completely just brain fart. It is midnight, so bear with me. Launch at an enemy champion, and each sphere deals magic damage. Then the upgraded version increases the cast range by 100. This ability can also execute champions under 10%. And if the ability kills the champion, dark spheres will detonate where they're killed and deal more damage. So the most important thing here with your ultimate is that you have 3 spheres around you, that this will be your base damage for your ultimate, but it also takes into account all the dark spheres around you. So you can use your ultimate just like this, and it will throw the 3 spheres, as you can see, and they'll drop on the floor. And these spheres you can actually use for your other abilities, like your third ability. However, you can also put, an extra 3 orbs down and then use your ultimate. That means 5 spheres will be dropped on the floor. You can see here all these 5 spheres that I can knock back to enemy champions. So the more spheres you have on the ground, the more damage you're going to be able to do. And this becomes really, really important when we talk about the combo section. The combo section is all about trying to get as many spheres on the floor as possible to get the biggest amount of damage output possible with our ultimate. So we're going to take off the cooldowns just for a second and talk briefly about combos. Now, what I like to do with Syndra is I like to use one of the spheres kind of behind me and use it as a second ability, kind of as a bait in a way. So what I like to do is use one of the spheres behind me and use the second ability to knock it into an enemy champion, use the first ability, third ability into ultimates. That's a really, really quick and easy combo that you can use. And you'll even have time to use your first ability after that as well, because the cooldown is so incredibly short. There is a way as well that you can get even more balls on the floor. So if you use your first ability twice and use your second ability to get a third ball, you could then use your ultimate again to be able to get 6 in total. I did it a bit slow there because of 0 CD. Let me do that again. If you use your first ability once, use your first ability twice, you grab another ball, which you're going to be doing reduced damage, unfortunately. But that does mean you've got 6 balls with your ultimate, which is going to do that increased damage with your ultimate. So yeah, each sphere deals 235 magic damage. So the more balls that you have on the floor, the more damage you're going to do with your ultimate. Obviously, basic combos, the things like first ability into third ability. You can do like first ability into second ability for a quick damage combo as well. There are so many different ways in which you can use Syndra's abilities, but a big one, as I mentioned, first ability, then you kind of bait around, use your second ability, then use your second stack of your first ability, stun them, and then use your ultimate, which when you stun them, obviously they're not going to be able to escape from your ultimate at all. So really, really important to do that combo. Like I said, with your ultimate, you don't want to use it really at the start of the fight. You want to get a few dark spheres on the floor first, then use your ultimate to do the biggest amount of damage possible. Right, let's talk leveling order. So, leveling order with Syndra. If I can get rid of the reset, there we go. I was trying to find the button there for a second. So at level 1, pretty simple. You just want to go for your first ability. Really easy poke tool during the early game. You can use this to clear minions. You can use this to clear to poke enemy champions. Really, really cool. Then you can use your third ability as well at level 2 to try and stun enemy champions. Maybe auto attack and do a little bit of extra damage because your auto attack range is quite high. Level 3, obviously maxing all the abilities when possible. Then we want to max our first ability first, making sure that we level up our ultimate when possible. Obviously leveling up your first ability is very important because you want to make sure that your first ability is basically your main damage source for Syndra, so that's going to be really important to make sure you use that. Then we level up our second ability because our second ability allows us to have shorter cooldown. Also the base damage and the slow also goes up, whereas the third ability is just the base damage that goes up. So leveling up our second ability second is going to be more beneficial for us. Then level up your third ability. Now in terms of upgrades, what are the best upgrades to go on Syndra? So the first, you basically just do it in order. So when you get your first ability upgrade, you always go for your first ability, making sure that you have the double charges of the Dark Sphere. Really, really powerful, especially during laning phase and even during fights as well. Then you want to go for your second ability as your second passive upgrade. This will give you the true damage. And then your third ability just to give you that extra wave, the extra cone, the extra area of effect with your third ability. Then obviously when you get to 100 and 120 stacks, you get to upgrade your ultimate, and then you get to upgrade your, give yourself extra ability power. As for the runes, it's really cool now because I can actually do the runes in the actual game itself now. I don't have to go and wait for anything else. The runes, I think First Strike is going to be very, very powerful for Syndra because of her incredible range. She actually has really, really strong range. You can poke very easily with her first ability, which is going to give you extra damage in lane and also give you extra gold in lane as well. You can also go for Electrocute because you can use very, very quick combos like the first ability into third ability into second ability. Very, very quick and easy combo that you can use that you can proc Electrocute. But I think First Strike has the biggest sort of damage, I guess, potential in a way. Scorch, very powerful with a poke. I already mentioned already. Very easy to poke with her first ability, so Scorch is going to give you extra damage. Cheap Shot, you have your second ability that slows. You have your third ability that can stun or knock back. Again, very easy to proc and get extra true damage. Eyeball Collector to give her extra ability power. And then Transcendence for the ability ace. We can use our abilities more often. As for the build, this is the build for Syndra. It's a little bit cut off, but you can see it at the top here anyway. I could sell all of this, but you can see it at the top here anyway. This is actually the first time ever that I haven't had to change the base build for Syndra. The recommended build for Syndra is probably the best one for her. The only thing I could recommend is maybe swapping Crown Shatter Queen with Infinity Orb. I think Infinity Orb is going to scale and do incredibly well with Syndra because you already do a high amount of burst damage, and being able to get your ultimate to crit when enemies are low on health is going to be extremely powerful. But yeah, Luna's Echo for the ability power, the extra, you know, Distorted Echo passive during the laning phase, extra damage, really powerful. Infinity Orb, the ability power, and also getting that critical damage when enemies low on health. Death Camp for the crazy amount of ability power. Crown the Shatter Queen for the extra protection, but also again gives you quite a lot of ability power. And I think Awakened Soulsteel is also going to be very powerful because when enemies are low on health, you'll be able to take them out. You can also do heavy high burst damage as well. When you have 4 items with Syndra, your burst damage is going to be insane, and you're probably going to 100 to 0 pretty much any squishies on the enemy team. You'll be very, very surprised. So that means that you'll be able to reduce the cooldown. And then for the boots, you have Boots of Mana. Obviously, make sure you go for this first. And then Boots Upgrade is probably just going to be Stasis. That's pretty much all it's going to be. I think Stasis Upgrade is probably your best option for Syndra. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. I think I've gone through everything for Syndra. As I said, the grind is back on. Hopefully you enjoyed this quick guide for Syndra. If you have any questions about the champion, let me know. She was one of my main champions in PC League of Legends, so I'm really excited to go to bed tonight, wake up tomorrow, do some streams. I'm hopefully going to do a YouTube stream tomorrow as well and check it out, so make sure you check that out tomorrow. I'll be playing Syndra. I'll be checking out all the new items, new changes, and everything like that as well. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next Wild video. Peace.